You know, there's an old saying, I don't know who said it or what they intended by it, but I read it many years ago, and I'm going to quote it to you now, and I want to give my slant on it. The saying that I read is this: the Titanic was built by experts and the Ark was built by amateurs. I'll repeat that. The Titanic was built by experts and the Ark was built by amateurs. Of course, the Ark it's referring to is Noah's Ark. We all know that the Titanic sank, killing most of those on board. But Noah's Ark sailed above the dangers and preserved all those who were on board. The Ark was built by amateurs under the guidance of God, whereas the Titanic was built by man's political aspirations and his arrogant belief that he knew better than God knows. And this was borne out by a statement that was made at that time, which was this: someone said, "Not even God can sink the Titanic." Well, if that's not an arrogant statement, I don't know what is. And of course it was proven to be totally untrue, because the Titanic did sink. Not that God sank the Titanic, it sank because of man's foolishness. According to the story that I heard, they were sailing too fast in dangerous waters. This story of the Titanic has a parallel in today's world. In the Western world, and particularly here in the United Kingdom and across Europe, our leaders are trying to build another Titanic, and one that will surely suffer the same fate as the last one did. This Titanic is being built out of the arrogant belief that God's way is outdated, irrelevant, and not worth following anymore, because they know better than God knows. Man's arrogance has not changed at all since the Garden of Eden, through to the Tower of Babel and beyond. He still thinks he can do without God and do better than God. God also has a ship called the Ark. The Ark that I am now referring to is not Noah's Ark any longer, but is a later edition created by Jesus. It is the Ark of God's salvation that was made possible by the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. All are welcome aboard this Ark. It has to be said that although this Ark is massive in size, it is light and flexible. And yes, it will encounter and hit a few icebergs on the journey, but it simply bounces off the icebergs, totally unharmed. That's the Ark of God. Whereas the modern Titanic that man is rebuilding is big and clumsy and will sink yet again when it crashes into an iceberg. You know, folks, we have to choose which ship we want to sail on. And God gives us this privilege of choosing for ourselves. We can either sail on the man-made ship that I'm now calling for the purpose of this talk the new Titanic, or we can sail on God's Ark of salvation through Jesus Christ. The one thing we need to know is that man's ship is doomed to sink, and all those on board this ship will perish, whereas God's Ark of salvation will rise above the dangers of this life and this world, and it will land safely on heaven's shore, and all those in it with it. One of the problems with the original Titanic, that there just simply weren't enough lifeboats on board when the ship struck the iceberg. You see, in their arrogant belief that the ship was unsinkable, they didn't put enough lifeboats on board. Therefore, they didn't put the passengers' safety first. And it's the same with this new Titanic. Those in charge don't really care about the safety or the welfare of its passengers. They only care about their own political aspirations. Only this last week we had a young 11-year-old girl in our church, and she claims that she has already been taught in school about same-sex marriage. And that's even before the bill has been passed through the House of Lords. You see, no one cares about the long-term effect this might have on girls like this and many others, as long as they can build their political aspirations. Who cares? My final question is this: how do we know when a ship is in danger? Well, I'm going to answer it by quoting a verse from the book of Proverbs, chapter 11 and verse 11. And it says this: "By the blessing of the upright, the city is exalted, but it is overthrown by the mouth of the wicked." In other words, when the upright are in charge, things work. When the wicked are in charge, they don't work. And this term upright is mentioned for those who follow God's blueprints and laws. They are the upright. And that's clearly stated throughout the whole of the Bible. God's blueprints and laws are not created to spoil our fun, as some think they are. Some maintain this position. But they are created for our protection and safekeeping. The minute we build anything, whether it be our lives, our society, or this new Titanic, which I've simply used as an analogy, then we are in danger. The problem with this new world order that we see being built, or this new Titanic as I've compared it to, it's not being built by the upright who follow God's laws, but it's being built by people who think they know better than God. Take my word for it, folks. Their ship will sink. Look around us and see if you can spot any of the dangers that are looming ahead of our ship, or their ship. Take a look at the Bible and read the warnings mentioned in there. Think about this, folks. You know, the ark has still plenty of room for those who want to get on board. Make sure you're on board. Think about this. Have a good week. God bless you. Bye for now.